allegedly shot and killed by police at a pub at Agbogba in Accra last Sunday. On suspicion he was a robber, 27-year-old Emmanuel Mofa was killed after the police apprehending them reportedly apprehending some suspects, I must say, reportedly stormed a pub in the area, shooting the deceased and picking up two others. The bartender and a friend of the 27-year-old were subsequently released on bail, but family of the deceased maintain their relative is not a criminal. The police, in the meantime, has been speaking on the matter. We'll hear from them shortly as they insist the deceased is a criminal. But first, let's hear elder sister of the deceased who says the entire family is traumatized by the incident. She wants the police to admit they shot and killed a wrong target.
After church on Sunday, he said he was going to meet some friends because they've lost a friend, so that they would meet and arrange how they're going to help their friend. So he went to my parents. They don't live too far from my end. He lives with me. So he went to see my parents and went to meet some friends. So I think he was all over the place visiting friends because it had been a long time. So they went to sit somewhere and eat. And that was went to eat around 9 o'clock. They sat there for some time, so there were three. They went to see one off, and the two of them, when they were going home, on their way home, which is on their way, there's a pub. On his way home, there's a pub. And one of the guys said, okay, let's sit here while I wait time, let's just talk, because it's been a long time. When they got to the pub, I think they sat there and they came out. So they were standing outside when the police patrol team came to park their car. He entered the pub. And when he entered, according to the eyewitnesses report, when he entered the pub, the police asked the gentleman who was outside why my brother entered the pub. And he said he didn't know. So the gentleman said they searched him. His friend outside said they searched him. They didn't find anything on him. And according to the bad guy who was apprehended by the police, after he was bailed, came to tell us the story that when they entered, there were other guys in the pub. So my brother was their target because he entered. They saw the two of them outside and they saw him entering the pub. So the attention was on him. They were asking why he entered the pub, and he said that he just entered the pub. I mean, they're in front of the pub. He entered the pub, so he didn't run. He entered the pub. So they searched my brother. According to the gentleman, the bad guy, they searched my brother. They didn't find anything on him. There were other guys in the pub. So what happened was they said one of the guys was running and he left a gun on the table. I don't know how to describe the pub, but there's this small exit. So the guy passed there and the police followed him. They started shooting into the air. There's a cemetery behind the pub. There's the police shots, chased him. They couldn't find him. So the policeman came back. And when he came back, the rest of the guy had vanished. It was left with my brother's friend who was outside, my brother and the bad guy. Then they said the gun is for my brother. And he said, no, according to the bad guy, he said where my brother was standing and where the gun was, it wasn't close. And the bad guy said the gun wasn't for my brother. Apparently the policeman who ran after the guy who left the gun saw the guy drop the gun. But I don't know if they wanted a scapegoat. So they started saying the gun is yours, and they started beating him up mercilessly. So in running for his life, there's this house adjacent to the pub. He jumped over the wall. They shot 3 gunshots on the wall. The gunshots, the marks are there. They followed him up, chased him. They shot 7 times on the building before they got my brother. So the caretaker said all he heard was that my brother shouted and said, "You kill me, I'm not an armed robber." That was when he heard the gunshots, that they shot my brother. As if that wasn't enough, they dragged him from behind the house to where they parked their car. He didn't die on the spot. According to the two guys who were apprehended, the bad guy and his friend, they said the police were jubilating and they were using the back of the gun to hurt him until he died. So he actually died before they took him to the hospital. The police, according to the police report that came out, I think on Tuesday, the lady Fiatenge said they saw there were 3 suspects. They were smoking, and one had a gun concealed around his waist, and at the same time was struggling with the police and was running away. So they shot him when he was trying to jump the wall. They shot him and he fell inside the house, into the compound, which wasn't so.
What specifically are you going to do if the police fail to admit that they shot the wrong target? That is, if they did.
For now, the whole thing is in 2 parts. We are interested in clearing his name before he's buried. Because I know when the legal side, it will take some time. They have to gather evidence and all that. I want the whole of Ghana, whether it's gone outside or not, I do not know, that my brother could be anything, but not an armed robber. No, my father won't train an armed robber. Neither will I harbor an armed robber in my house. So what we're going to do is that, for now, we want to just clear his name before we bury him, because we'll be burying him very soon. But before we bury him, I want my brother's soul to rest in peace. So we want to tell the whole world that, yeah, Emmanuel Kofi Amufa he was actually awaiting his results to go to the university. That's not easy. My dad has a heart issue. My mom is not well. And it hasn't been easy. My dad keeps crying and he doesn't understand. He keeps looking at his picture and he goes like, no, this can't happen to us. My mom is not even able to talk. She's not crying. She's not talking. My mom is traumatized. My mom is... Until I am trying to be strong. Who's going to replace my brother? It's not easy for my parents. My mom nearly collapsed the other day. It's not easy.
So that's the side of the family of the gentleman who was killed. Earlier, the police gave us indications that they'd like to speak to us. So Komla Adom, my colleague, is at the Accra Region Police Headquarters to find out what they've been saying to him. Hello, Komla. What do we know at this point?
Hi, Gifty. Well, Gifty, what we know at this point is that police have denied the claims by the family or the relatives of Emmanuel Amofa, who was killed. They say that the young man who was killed was, in fact, a criminal, and he was wielding a weapon at the time they accosted he and others at that particular pub at that particular time. And also the police tell us that he was resisting arrest and exhibited some martial arts skills to fight off or ward off the police. And in that process, police had to engage him, and unfortunately he lost his life. The police indicated to us, especially a director of operations in charge of the Accra region, Kwesi Fori, indicated to us that they were going to speak to us. We haven't yet got them to speak to us. We're still trying to get either director of operations Kwesi Fori or the public relations officer ASP Fiatenge to speak to us. But what we know for now, Gift, is that the police have denied the claims by the family members. They say the young man who was killed was a criminal, he was resisting arrest, and he was in fact engaging police in the process, and that was what led to the shooting, and he lost his life, unfortunately, Gifty.
Komla, thank you very much for that update. Do hang on for us. We'll come to you as and when there's any further reaction from the police, so we could hear either the Director of Operations or the PRO speak on that matter. We'll come back to you as and when there's any more information. Right now, let's go back to the Greater Accra Region Police Headquarters, where Komla Adom is standing by. Yes, ASP Fiatenge with him, who's agreed to speak at the moment. Komla, is that right?
That's true. Many thanks to you, Gifty. So many thanks to you, ASP Fiatenge, for your time. We've heard from the family this morning. They say that you shot their relative and he is not a criminal.
Yes, thank you very much. If the family is saying so, yes, the police have heard. And from this our side of the story, or from the side of the police received a distress call around 2 a.m. to 3, where the patrol team was called in to respond to that distress call. In the process, they encountered 3 suspected armed robbers, including the deceased. And the deceased had with him a locally manufactured pistol, which I could show you right after our interview. And in an attempt to search him, he struggled with the police officer and took to his heels. And according to the operational men, they managed to demobilize him. And when he sustained gunshot wounds, he was sent to the hospital, and unfortunately, he passed on. That is the side of the police, and the case is still under investigation. Yes, we have heard the side of the family. We are also concerned if the family is saying their brother who was killed in this incident is not an armed robber. The police have heard, and we are also conduct thorough investigations into it. And let me also sound that we should also take note that anytime a police officer dispenses an arm or uses an arm, we have circumstances under which the police officer can resort to the use of firearm. And whenever a police officer uses his firearm, there are certain circumstances that should confront him to be able to use the firearm. And at any point in time, and any time when we use the firearm, we are also subjected to, a judicial inquiry of a sort, where we need to justify the circumstances for which we were confronted with, and that also shows that there was the need for us to use that firearm. So we have already begun investigations into it. We have heard them, and we'll conduct investigations into it and get back to them.
Well, you mentioned that 3 suspects, one of the 3 who is now the deceased. Do we know what the 2 others are, and what's the confirmation that these 3 people indeed were robbers?
Yes, if you heard me, I said we saw 3 persons suspected to be robbers. And for 2, the last time I checked, they had been granted bail, and the case is still under investigations.
They were accosted in a pub, we understand. In that pub, there are so many people at the time in that pub.
What I know is Agbugba area, cemetery area. As to whether it was a pub, for now, I cannot say, because that information is not available to me.
Okay. The narrative we also know for now is that the young man did not die at the police hospital, as you've just confirmed to me. In fact, they tell us that the young man died on the way to the police hospital as a result of being brutalized by police on the way to the hospital.
We do not have the authority to declare somebody dead. If somebody dies in our course of operation, we have to send the person to the hospital for the medical officer to declare the person dead. So if the person died probably on our way to the hospital, we cannot say so. That is unless we have a medical officer to prove so before we can confirm that the person has passed on.
Another narrative we know for now is that, again, back to the bar story, that in fact those who were wielding that gun actually ran out and jumped into the cemetery and were apprehended by police. And once police lost sight of them, they came back to the pub and then accosted this particular guy.
That information is also known to me. It's not known to me. What I have is what I have stated, and that was the point of the police. If there are anything to it, I believe that the family will also be called for them to give their side of the story, where we can have a full-scale investigation into it.
Have you spoken to the family relatives as of now, since the incident happened?
I know they've been here to meet the commander, but I have not met them personally.
They also make another allegation that they spoke to the commander, DCOP Alex Mensah. He also told them that the young man who is the deceased now engaged the police, in fact, in some martial arts just to ward off the police, and in the process, the police engaged him.
We know an incident had happened. As to what really led to the death, that is what I don't have. I don't have those full facts. What I have is what I've been made, or I have made available to you. If there are any other aspects of it, those will come up in the course of our investigations.
And these are the people who we are told the house in which he ran into, there's a caretaker there. You've spoken to that individual. In fact, the bar guy has also been spoken to, according to what I'm learning from police sources. What do we know from these witnesses or these people's suspects?
You know, whenever there's an incident, there are investigators who are assigned to do thorough investigations to come back with a report, which, of course, even the administrative report has even begun. The full facts will unfold as the investigations go on. If you ask me, I may not be able to tell you, because the investigators do the nitty-gritties, they do all the investigations there is to be done. Then they come out with whatever results, after which I can also get to be able to brief you. So at this point, I don't have that information.
So finally, before I let you go, at this point, conclusively, you say that the young man who is now deceased was part of a gang of robbers, suspects who were being apprehended by police, factually.
You heard me right. I have made my narration to you already.
Many thanks to you. So you heard the ASP Fiatinge, she speaks for the Accra Region Police. They are flatly denying claims by the relatives of this deceased young man that the suspect who has been killed was indeed a suspected armed robber, and they were apprehended by police. He, including two others, making it 3 individuals at an area around Agbogba. And during the operation, one of the individuals lost his life, who is Emmanuel Amofa. Family members have since denied that their relative is an armed robber, but police insist that he is a suspect, part of a 3-member gang who were apprehended by police that dawn. So, Gifty, that's it from me here at the police Accra Region headquarters.
Komla, thank you very much for that update there. Komla Adom with ASP Fiatinge, who speaks for the Greater Accra Region Police.